Now people very often wonder how I mix my colours in my watercolour projects. I've recorded the colour mixing process for the red squirrel tutorial, and there will be links below this video for that one as well. So if you want a masterclass on mixing colours for one particular project, let me show you the way that I tend to do it. So I just need to think about what colours I need to use for that. Now, I've got a variety of colours here, as you can see. Just playing with those colours and working out what you think you'll need. And we can see that even on a phone, when you zoom in, there's got some lovely rich colours in there. But your phone might be a little bit different to your iPad, your tablet, your computer screen, because the colours can vary from device to device. So remember that. As long as it's near enough, that's all that matters. Now, I have painted a red squirrel before, but I know that the colours when I painted it was far too, well, red. Reddy orange. So where do we start? Okay, the first obvious colour I'm going to start with is burnt sienna. So it's this one here. Oh, here. My colours are Winsor and Newton, and it's a mixture between the professional brand and also their student quality brand. I like them both, so whichever one I can get my hands on first, really. The paper I'm using for the main painting, by the way, is Bockingford. And this is also Bockingford as well. There you go. Right, so that's burnt sienna. And looking carefully at that photograph, I think what I might do is mix it with, let's say, I don't know, maybe a bit of brown, burnt umber. We'll try that one, look. And that looks good. I mean, that could be used as part of the layer. So we can add a third colour to that as well if you wanted to. And what I might do is go for a little bit of alizarin crimson, but a small amount. And you can see already, wash that brush out, that's really rich. It's a strong colour, alizarin crimson, so you want to add it in gently. That one there, Paul. Get the right one. Touch more. Ah, see what I mean? That might overpower it now. I'd have to kind of take it back again with some burnt sienna. So it's kind of going back and forth between all three colours until you get that colour about right. But I wouldn't normally add more than 3 colours in one go. Sometimes I do, but very rarely, because it can get quite muddy otherwise, and we don't want that happening. So that area will work well for the lightest colours just about. We need one slightly lighter than that. And that one will work well for the mid-tones. Oh, by the way, don't do this over the top of the painting. What I should do really, you know, get a sheet of white paper like that and slide it underneath. Silly boy. Okay, now remember I want this lightest colour, so burnt sienna. This is how I tend to work with my colours all the time. I test my colours out and see what they're like. And when you kind of mix up a reasonable amount like that, wash that brush out, give it semi-dry, like that, and then a bit of water, or damp brush anyway, and just blend that so it gets lighter towards there, look. So let's go for another one, burnt umber. I do like burnt umber, you know. Touch more. Ah, see, that's dulling it down a little bit, but I still want to make sure that it's pale towards one side, so it's very watery. Like that. Yeah. Now that's more like it, isn't it? More like it indeed. So what you need to do is write down your mixes. So we had burnt sienna, burnt S, burnt umber, BU, and alizarin crimson, alizarin. And this one we had burnt sienna. If you don't write it down, you'll forget. I always do. And they will work quite well for the mid-tones and the lightest tone colours. Which they will, of course. Now we need a darker colour. What colour shall we mix for that? There's one option we've got, and that's by using the same colour mix again. So let's say burnt sienna. This is for the darkest colour, so you need to make it creamy, don't forget. Or just about creamy. These are quite watery. That's more milky, really. We can try milky to begin with and see what it comes out like. I don't want it pitch black, but there are some dark areas within that red squirrel, aren't there? So burnt sienna. We'll go for, I don't know. Let's go for green, because that's more or less the opposite colour on the colour wheel, just about. This is nearly red. That's the rich colour, isn't it? Let's try green with it. And I might just try just a touch of phthalo green, which is this one here. or phthalo. Phthalo. Add that one in. That's really overpowered, isn't it? So now I'm going to go for the burnt sienna again and try and bring that back. Bring it back. That's looking better, but still too green. No. So I'm going to keep going, and I'll quickly cut the camera until I've got this nearly to the right colour. As you can see, it's getting there. You can see that's nearly just about brown, isn't it? But it's not dark enough, so what can we use to make it darker? We could use a dark colour, like lamp black, or maybe a touch of Payne's grey, just down the bottom corner here. And I might try that latter one, just a Payne's grey, and see how that one comes out. So take most of that water off the brush. Remember, I want this to be creamy more than anything. It's got to be quite dark. You have to remember that when you wash your brush out, water holds within that metal ferrule. So when you tip your brush down, it runs through those bristles, then onto the painting. Payne's grey. Darken it down. Payne's grey is more of a blue, isn't it? Like a blue-black. And that isn't far off, you know. Wash that brush out. I don't want to infect any other colours by not washing that brush out thoroughly. In between colour mixes. Now that's slightly darker now. So that's your 3-colour mix on that one. And that will work quite well for those darker areas. You know, I might just have a touch more of the burnt sienna in just to warm it slightly. But I mean, other than that, that might just about do. And I think if that's layered on there, so we've got more than one layer, it'll get darker and darker and darker. And if it's thicker, which I need to make it more creamier, it'll be darker even more. Yeah, I think that will do for that. It's all about playing with those colours and see what you can do with them, isn't it? Another option I've got is maybe burnt umber. So where to look at the paints, you have to remember that I've been painting for many, many years. Rather than look at the pigment codes within the paints, I never do that, you know. Like PY 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, whatever codes they are, I don't look at any of that. I don't get involved in it really. I just look at the colours and see which ones sort of work. By testing and playing with those colours like I'm doing now. That's all I suggest that you do before you go to a main painting, okay? So burnt umber, I'm going to go for a touch of lamp black this time. And that's really good for those darkest areas, look at that. That's just a 2-colour mix. If you want it slightly warmer, add a bit more burnt umber to it. But again, make it more to a creamy consistency for those really dark recessed areas. Otherwise you'll find that you don't get the contrast you need within that painting. So you've got the lightest, you've got the mid-tones, you've got, well, one even further than that, and then you've got the darkest colour itself. But when you look at that eye, we have got a little bit of blue in the eye, and we could use most blues for that really, like a bit of indigo or maybe a touch of French ultramarine. So something like this one here, very watery, I can go for that. Let's try that one. Oh, too much on the brush. So something like that will work fairly well, I would have thought, for that highlight, or maybe even a touch of phthalo blue. Look at that. Oh, what a lovely colour that is. And nice and watery for that highlight. So I could use either one for the highlights. But around the eye, I can see, you know, just a touch, only a touch of pink within that brown. Right, okay, how are we going to do that one? Well, we know we could use red for pink, just by watering it down. I'll try that first of all. Alizarin crimson. I'm running out of paper now, look. That's okay. Watered down, as you can see, it works fairly well, but it's not the right colour. Looking at it, it needs to be dulling down. I can try maybe a bit of Indian red, that down there, and add that into the mix. That's looking better. And then finally, I need a touch of brown in there. And I'm going to go back to our favourite, or my favourite anyway, burnt sienna. We'll add that one in. And we can go back and forth with these colours like we've done before until we get the sort of colour we need, really. And I think, you know, that's not far off around the outside edge of that eye. And also when you look at the nose and the cheek, you've got a similar colour within there as well. So I better write that down before I forget. But as I mentioned before, always do this before you start on a painting. So it's always worth getting those colours right before you make a start, because one thing is when you start getting those colours on the paper, and some colours, as we know, are staining, especially alizarin crimson, it's a culprit for that one, you find that you can't remove it, and it can be quite intense as well. So trying to cover it over with transparent watercolours, which obviously they are, is very, very difficult indeed. So trying to get those colours right before you make a start is extremely important. Now you know the way that I mixed the colours for the Red Squirrel project. Here's a link to part 1 for you. I'll see you there.